Palmistry can be super complicated. It's really difficult to know where to begin. Isn't that right, Pixie? It's a super complicated science. In this video, I'm going to teach you the basics of how to read palms so that you will be able to read your own to some degree and others. So we're going to look over the primary lines, learn the minor lines, and also I'm going to show you some of the rare signs in the palms as well. So we're also going to be looking at a live palm reading as well. So stick with me. If you're new to palmistry, I promise you by the end of this video, you will learn a few things. So let's get right into it. The first major palmar line I want to talk about is the lifeline. It begins underneath the forefinger and above the thumb, and it works its way around the ball of the thumb and down towards the wrist. Generally speaking, in this area, sometimes it curls its way around the thumb. Now, from this line, we can determine a great many things. Islands seen on the lifeline, these kind of eye-like formations are where the energies are disrupted. There's an obstacle, and the energies have to flow around something. There's something in the way, and this is often a negative sign. It's a sign of stress and upheaval. The lifeline shows us how we live our life. It's our environment. It's our health, our constitution, and our vitality, but it's also what's close to home. If this line appears to become sluggish and thick towards or at any point, then it can also be an indicator of obesity. If the line becomes too thin, it can be a sign of a lack of minerals. A long lifeline is not necessarily an indication of a long life, and neither a short lifeline is neither a short indication of a short life. The length of a lifeline suggests more how a person lives their life. Do they live quickly, or are they taking their time about their experiences? Sometimes we see a branch moving away from the lifeline towards the heel of the hand, the moon mount or lunar mount, and this shows the potential for travel. Sometimes we see lines branching upwards from the lifeline. This is an improvement to a certain aspect or area of a person's life. Often it's in related to the career or academia. The destination of a lifeline does indeed show perhaps where a person might end up, as in if it tucks neatly around the base of Venus, the ball of the thumb, then we know this person may well live and die in their native homeland. If the lifeline swings courageously, boldly outwards towards lunar, place of restlessness, imagination, and travel, exploration, we know a person is living outside of their homeland. The next line I want to talk about is the headline, sometimes referred to as the mind line. It begins sometimes attached to the lifeline and breaks away, and where it does, we see a person carving their own independence. The lifeline in this way can be used to time events, and the headline here breaks away from the lifeline at the age of around about 26. For this person, they become independent around this time, truly, and it also shows a connected head and lifeline. It shows someone who is very cautious, a planner, methodical. They are slow to act. The straightness of a headline shows how level-headed a person is. If it is indeed very straight, then it shows someone who is very forward-thinking, logical, rational, grounded, and down to earth. If we see the opposite, in fact, a headline that reaches down into lunar, then instead we see someone who is more creative, lunar being this place of imagination and restlessness. How far apart the headline is from the lifeline shows how a person's mind energies are not connected with the life's energies. It shows impatience and it shows brashness. How much a headline bends, arches, waves, curves, how much it changes in its course shows us the possibility for instability. The length of the headline does not indicate intelligence necessarily. The length of the headline shows us how much a person thinks in the future, how able they are to plan, and it also shows obsessive qualities, potentially. A short headline shows us someone who is quick to process information, someone who is very able to take something on board and move on. The distance between the head and the heart line shows us how open-minded a person is, how generous they are, how giving they are, how open they are. If a headline is thin, it can show that a person is not being stimulated. It can also show the potential for a potassium deficiency. If it's thick, perhaps there's too much on their mind. The heart line begins underneath the little finger and works its way up towards Saturn. Sometimes it works its way in between Jupiter, the index finger, and the middle finger, Saturn. Now, when a heart line branches outwards like this, it shows high idealism. Jupiter is the place of judgment. Branching heart line like this shows a multifaceted love language. It shows someone who expects a lot from others as they also expect from themselves. They may wear their heart on their sleeve and perhaps get hurt, at least more easily than others. The curvature of the heart line suggests a few things. Firstly, how low down the heart line begins on the palm shows us how much capacity we have to care for others, how much we fall for a sob story, if indeed the heart line begins low down. The straightness of the heart line shows us our emotions towards others, how cold we can be if it's in fact a straight heart line. A deeply curved heart line shows a great capacity to love, and someone who loves physically as well as emotionally and intellectually. There are different kinds of love languages, and the heart line shows us these things. A person with a straight heart line is much more inclined to act with effort and time, physical acts of love and appreciation. A person with a curved heart line is far more sentimental, and especially a person who has a heart line that reaches right up onto Jupiter and branches, a person with this, as I say, highly idealistic. Islands on the heart line show signs of emotional stress and, in fact, at times, physical trauma as well. A thick heart line that appears sluggish is a sign of high cholesterol. A thin heart line could be a sign of circulatory issues. Now, often people ask me, which hand should I read? In fact, we read both hands. The left hand and the right hand show us both the same events and scenarios in a person's life, but in a very different way. The left hand shows us how a person is affected internally and emotionally. It shows us their desires and their hopes and their secrets. It shows us insecurities, the psychological and emotional nature and makeup of a person. The right hand shows us what's more physical, practical, material. It shows us the same events and occurrences, but how they affect a person externally. Essentially, the left hand shows us the internal, the right hand shows us the external. There is one more major Palmer line which I would like to discuss, and that is the fate line, sometimes referred to as the destiny line or the career line. It's a line that runs centrally, vertically upwards from normally from lunar or the base of the palm, sometimes the lifeline or Venus, and the destination often is the Saturn mount underneath the middle finger. We can, in fact, have more than one fate line. I've seen 3 fate lines on a person's hand. We can, in fact, have more than one heart, head, life, and fate line, in fact, on the palms. Now, in this person's palms, we can see a difference in their fate lines in how they're formed at the bottom. And what this shows us is how a person has experienced life. Their destiny, their path in life started out with a traumatic and difficult event that can be seen here in the left hand. Now, on the right hand, we see that same event, but it's not as impactful externally, physically. This was an emotionally and psychologically difficult time for this person. The fate line rises upwards towards the headline, and as it does, where the fate line meets the headline, we can time roughly at this time in their life at the age of 35. Where the fate line meets the heart line is at the age of 53. The fate line is a reliable source of timing events in a person's life, as is the lifeline. The sun line, which is another line, a minor line, which I'm going to talk about soon, is another line that you can time events on, but these are the only lines in the palms where you can accurately time events. And as you can see here, I've mapped out very crudely this person's events in their life, this person's ages on their fate line, just so you can get an understanding. Now, to provide you with a bit of context, notice the heart line here branching downwards, crashing into the lifeline. There's two branches here that do that. There's an island where this happens on the lifeline. This corresponds with this event here on the fate line. This is at the age of around about 6 to 10, and you can see that on the lifeline as well. We have a corroborating series of events here. Now, on the right hand, notice how you have this same hurt, this trauma, emotional, psychological damage, but it's not as impactful. We don't see two lines branching from the heart line, reaching downwards, asking the person's environment and home help for support at this time. We see it impact this person much more on the left hand, which shows how this is an emotional and uh, psychologically troubling time. Now, perhaps this is a good time to look at your own hands and remember a point in your life that you found particularly difficult and have a look to see if you can find that same point in time on your lifeline and your fate line. By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, feel free to subscribe. Now, for this next part in the video, I'm going to talk over the minor lines in the hand. The sun line can be seen underneath the ring finger. It's also referred to as the success line or the Apollo line, and that is because it is situated directly underneath the Apollo finger. It is our representation of our success in life. It shows us what makes us shine and what makes us happy, how we enjoy life. It's often referred to in matters of success and wealth because happiness is so often associated with money. However, for a lot of people, this line does not represent money. It depends on the person. Now, sometimes we can have a doubling of the sun line, which may well show more than one income. It may well show a hobby that provides us with a great sense of joy, happiness. A sun line or Apollo line that is enriched by the heart line and has roots that almost appear to strengthen the success of a person shows how a person is supported by the possibility of in a relationship by someone they're very close to, and it also shows the possibility for success in artistic or creative endeavors. The sun line can be read alongside the fate line or the career line, directly alongside this. Matters in the career or a person's journey, their path in life, directly correspond with the sun line. Island seen on the sunline could well in fact be a sign of defamation or perhaps a legal battle of some sort of financial upheaval. And again, look for corroborating signs in the fate line, of course, the life line. It is extremely important in palmistry to never diagnose from one sign or symptom alone. Some of the other minor palmar lines in the hand can be seen as the health line here that works its way from the lifeline up towards the Mercury Mount, often landing on top of the Mercury Mountain itself. From this line, we can determine a great many things about a person's health, their digestive system, and how they view their own health as well. A curved line that begins from low down on Luna and works its way upwards towards either outer Mars or the Mercury Mount is a line of intuition. And this line can help people sense other people's feelings, clairsentience. It can help a person see the future, foretell visions in their dreams, and it shows the likely signs of psychic abilities and mediumship. Another minor sign in the hand is the marriage line or attachment lines, as they're sometimes referred to as union lines, relationship lines. They creep in underneath the little finger and above the heart line, and they work their way towards the Apollo mount. Now, Upwards and downward strokes coming from a marriage line can indicate the potential for children from this union, the amount of which show us the potential amount of children. The length of the marriage line does not show us how long the relationship will last for, but rather how it affects this person, either internally or externally, or of course both. Where the marriage line begins in between the heart line and underneath the little finger shows us where, at what point in their life, this person will find their other half, their person. If we see it halfway like this, it's at pretty much in the halfway point of their life. If we see it low down, these are earlier relationships, and of course, higher up are later on. Now, I read this person's palm and predicted that this person would meet someone very soon, and they in fact called me a couple of weeks later and told me that they're getting married. I was right, apparently. I'm not always right, though. Marriage lines that reach downwards towards the heartline show how the relationship, the union, is bringing us down, reaching forward towards the heart for guidance. A marriage line that reaches towards the sun line, long and streaking like this, shows the potential for our partner to become famous and very wealthy. It does not necessarily show us that we are happy in this union, though, that this relationship brings us happiness. No, the depth of the marriage line, one like this, and I can appreciate it's difficult to see because of the shadow, but you can see just how it kind of cuts in here and curves its way, carved its way into the palm. It shows how deeply this person feels, how literally physically they're affected and moved by this union. Lines that work their way alongside inside the lifeline are known as Mars lines, Mars being the god of war. Sometimes they're also referred to as guardian angel lines. And this is because they protect and aid us, assist us through times of hardship, legal battles, when we need to repair our bones if we're broken in hospital, or if in fact we are quite literally going to war. The family ring can be seen wrapping its way around the thumb. Islands seen on the family ring, as I see one here, is the potential for children. Each island shows us the potential for each child. Now, I have mentioned that islands are negative in palmistry, generally speaking, but this only shows a time of stress and hardship and financial burden. Children keep us up at night. They are difficult to raise, and this is why they show up as islands on the family ring. Essentially, it's a disruption in the family, but of course, it's a positive one. Now, of course, I've been showing you a few live readings here just to give you a bit of context, but I'm going to move on now to the third part of this video. Let's learn some of the rare signs in the palms. Squares in palmistry are always protective. They show us a need to protect and safeguard, which in itself is not a good thing. The need for that protection is not a good thing in itself. There is a reason for that need to protect, and that reason may not be good. However, the square itself shows us protection. Now, for this person, this square is formed out of two fate lines and an incident that occurs, and it's showing us protection from around the age 37 right up to 60. And it's showing us protection on the heart line. It's on the right hand, so we know that this is physical. This person is protected physically in some way. And from this time, 37 right up to 60, this is a crucial time for this person to be protected physically. Squares on the inside of the lifeline show us the need for isolation from society. They show us someone who has potentially been hospitalized or gone to prison, a psychiatric ward perhaps. And for this person, in fact, these squares here represent how they worked on a cruise ship. They were isolated from society, but they essentially were protected from the rest of the world. Wherever a square appears in the palms has a protective nature around whatever that part of that palm represents. I've made many videos on the rare signs in the palms. Feel free to check these out. Triangles in the palms are a fascinating feature. They're always productive and they're always positive. There's a strong foundation, and where an experience and observation and learning meet in the middle, we have this strong structure formation of productivity. constructive, and fortunate often results come from having a triangle on the palms. Now, for example, a triangle on Jupiter shows a highly sort of diplomatic ability, and it shows the experiences and learning, this self-understanding, and the learning of others has created this diplomacy, this diplomatic ability that combined with the ability to be sensitive towards others' feelings and understand, be empathetic towards other people's feelings, has created this triangle on the Jupiter mount, the underneath the index finger here. Triangles near enough always suggest some form of study, learning, because although it's a fortunate marking, it isn't without some sort of hard work that this fortune is achieved. Stars in palmistry are a fascinating subject because they are very rare and they always represent something that is spectacularly shocking and sudden and is either very bad or it's very good. Now, it can be a sudden, shocking rise and elevation in life to incredible fame and new heights, fortune, and great reputation. It also can be the opposite. It can be a sudden, shocking event that can cause great physical harm to a person's character as well as their bank account. For it to truly be a star in palmistry, it has to be isolated and it has to have 5 or more points. Because of this, the meaning of the star in palmistry can just be so variable. Now, if a star is found isolated alone on its own on the Saturn mount underneath the middle finger, it can show a sign of a potential incurable disease. It can show up on the hands of criminals and outlaws. It can show potentially a drastic and unfortunate end to a person's path in life. If a star is found on Jupiter, it can well be a sign of sudden elevation. Their achievements, their ambitions have been achieved. It can show an almost sort of predetermined rise in life, succession in some way. The Dalai Lama has in fact a star on his Jupiter mount. There are many other minor lines in the palms and special rare markings. The Ring of Solomon is one such rare marking, and it shows an ability and an aptitude towards learning the occult sciences. And someone with this sign certainly has a keen interest in this area and likely studies the occult sciences, either astrology, palm reading, numerology, or perhaps tarot reading. Perhaps they look towards developing their psychic abilities and they may well have a line of intuition. Another minor marking, which is not in fact a rare sign, but it's also not all that common either. So I'm putting it in between the second and third part of this video really, is the girdle of Venus, and it shows an extra sensitivity with a person's emotional capacity. It shows physical, emotional, psychological urges and desires. It shows a person's sexual, psychological framework, and it shows their hypersensitivity. Many upward vertical lines on the Mount of Mercury underneath the little finger are known as the healing stigmata, the sign of the healing stigmata, or Good Samaritan lines. You guessed it, if you've got these lines, you are a helpful, healing, and compassionate person. You are someone who likes to help others. You gain a great sense of satisfaction out of helping others. This can be seen in the hands of anyone, but I wouldn't see it in the hands of someone who isn't strongly compassionate. You can see here this person's heart line starts very low down and curves quite dramatically, and it shows this person has a great sense of compassion, empathy, and capacity to love. Now I'm going to give you a small palmistry demonstration here, a small live reading. This person at the age of 10 had some sort of head injury. We can see her line here that begins from the lifeline, crosses the headline, damages the head, and affects the physical well-being of this person. We can see that it's at the age of around about 10 here, And we can also see that at the age of 15 or so, we have here a line that comes in from inner Mars, a place of drive and determination and aggression, motivation. This person pulled themselves, made good use of their own determination and motivation to affect their life and affect the way they think and feel, and positively affect how they influence others with their persona and their character. They quite literally pulled themselves out of their shell and increased their confidence. This person has a very detached life from their headline. They are at times irrational. They are at times very impatient, and they act without thinking. This is known as the mark of the tiger. In Tibetan palmistry, it's someone who leaps before they think. It's someone who is very quick to act. However, it also provides a person with a sense of radical thinking, someone who thinks in a very non-conformist way. There's generally always a pro and a con to every Palmer marking and feature in palmistry. Now, at the age of in late 20s, this person made a great improvement to their life. They improved themselves and they made efforts towards self-development. We see this line here reaching towards Jupiter, and it touches again the headline. There were efforts here made to really improve. This person may well have begun meditation around this time, and we can see here squares on the inside of the lifeline, isolation following this self-improvement. A little bit later on, we notice how the lifeline breaks away from the fate line. The fate line becomes one with the heart. This person moved at this time. This is at the age of 35. And we can see at the age of 35, where the fate line meets the headline, we can see the fate line shifts over, it changes. We see the person changes their role, their position, their path in life has quite literally jumped rails. Their primary path in life begins to become faint, whereas their secondary path takes over at this time. And we can see this person begins to earn a lot more money at this time because the strength of fate line, in particular from 53 and onwards, there is an incredible depth to their fate line. This is where they're earning a lot more money. But before that, at the age of 42, there is temptation here. There is the heart line here, reaching down, looking towards to threaten this person's path in life. They may well become tempted. All that glitters is not gold. I'd advise this person to stick to the straight and the narrow. There are some health issues that need to be addressed, particularly to do with their gallbladder. Their bile duct is not quite working as it should be. This needs to be addressed, and once it does, their digestive system will begin to work properly again. Being that the secondary fate line, which is more pronounced during the middle part of the life and onwards, comes from Luna, the place of travel and the outside world. Being that this line is the stronger of the two, and being that this person has good Samaritan lines and a low lying, strongly curved heart line, we can determine this person works with others, for others, is a caring person, and has some sort of healing nature about them. Money will not be an issue, especially towards later life. There will be a bit of a bump in the road at 60, but after this time, happiness, prosperity, and peace will be in abundance. However, there may well be a health issue that needs to be looked at and addressed right now if we're to change the lines in the hand. The hands show us a picture of the road ahead. They do change along with our current and present circumstances. If we change the way we live, if we change our diet, the way we work and sleep, the way we interact with others, the way we manage our own feelings, the lines on our hands will change. Palmistry is a healing practice, and as such, it should be used for guidance and healing purposes only. It shouldn't be used to determine and point out negative things with only that in mind. It should be used as a constructive practice. Point out negative things only if you can find a solution, only if there's a constructive element behind it. I hope you've enjoyed this video and hope you've learned something, and hopefully you've been looking at your own palms. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a like and a subscribe. And thank you very much for watching.